Hello YouTube, this is Morgan, Airspeed Prime here at my next Steven Universe episode review. This one is going to be for Season 4, Episode 3, Buddy's Book. Recording this video a bit earlier than the episode releases, because obviously the episodes leak a couple of days before they actually air. And I'm not American, so I can't watch it on TV and add to the rating, so I just watch them when they come out, and I might as well review it now. So that's that. The episode is out, it's leaked, it's available out there if you want to watch it. But yeah, I don't see the point in just waiting until the episode officially releases. So yeah, an episode I wasn't really expecting much from, hearing the kind of like basic description of the episode and seeing the preview clip, but it turned out to be a very intriguing episode. In the sense of like, oh, this is just going to be some random episode where Steve and Connie go to the library and they maybe find something slightly interesting, but it's just the library is the kind of core of the episode. Whereas actually, the book was the focus of the episode. Stephen finds this book, which is an old book, basically written by the person who founded the library in Beach City and helped to found Beach City in the first place. And it's basically a journal of his travels when he was an adventurer, explorer in the past. And of course, you immediately have to say, like, the kind of whole unreliable narrator situation here on kind of two fronts. One, in the sense of, like, Buddy in the past not fully being aware of everything that he saw. And then two, Stephen and Connie, basically the episode as we see it, is their interpretation from reading the book. So the visuals are basically how they see the story playing out in their minds. So it's kind of hard to really treat seriously every single visual we see and like, is that exactly what happened? The biggest thing there, of course, being like when he finds Pearl and Garnet in the Strawberry Battlefield area, which we basically find out the location of that somewhere in Scandinavia. I think people have figured out it's like more or less Norway, which is interesting in of itself. But when he meets them, he like as if them reading out the book, basically they say crystal gems. They don't really refer to Garnet and Pearl by name, but the fact that they specifically mention, like, when they first in their imagination just put Garnet and Pearl as they are now, and then they think about it, wait, this was that long ago, they must have looked a little bit different, and then they changed them, makes me probably believe that it probably is Garnet and Pearl that we're talking about here, and not just two other random crystal gems. Not that it matters a massive amount, but, you know, interesting. And similar situation with Amethyst later on when he visits the kindergarten and he finds her there. I assume that probably did happen, you know, just the fact that it was her kindergarten. It seemed to be, you know, describing, you know, her whole, and what she says in the kind of scene definitely makes it seem like, okay, she comes back and visits it. But yeah, the character of Buddy, the way they kind of present him, is interesting enough in the sense of, like, he's an explorer, but to get his leads on exploring, he basically ends up just exploring places that have already been visited. The difference, of course, being that he is basically the first human visiting all these gem-like sites, like, of interest to him, whereas the people he's actually finding this stuff out about is from gems. So he's kind of not realizing that to humans, learning about all these gem battle sites is actually super interesting, a story if he put it out there. And so when he meets Rose later on, which was a really big moment in the episode, and she basically just says to him, you actually have a kind of way with words, the way you put this and write about it, even though these places have not been just discovered by you, you should consider becoming an author. And that's how the whole idea of the library came from, why there's so many books in it, and so on. But the Rose scene was very interesting in that immediately the idea of, like, he basically describes Rose perfectly. The people are kind of questioning the whole idea of, like, he doesn't call Rose a crystal gem or anything like that. But again, that's the whole unreliable narrator thing coming up. He describes Rose as basically perfectly, you know, giant woman, her hair effectively, and then the whole idea of, like, with all of these, like, 7 lions or something like that. And that was, like, a big moment, just like, oh, everyone is suddenly beginning to like heavily question what Lion is. In an episode where we had Lion at the start doing something pretty crazy with the whole kind of teleportation thing, and then we see Rose interacting with Earth lions. And I suppose the idea that we're potentially meant to take here is that either whatever like Steven's like pink lion is either some sort of weird gem creation thing aspect of Rose's power that she kind of transformed into a lion because she always liked lions as like an animal on Earth, or one of those lions that she was, walking around Earth with interacted with some sort of gem power and got powers itself and effectively became immortal over time, hence why it's like been alive for so long, and kind of turned pink. Now, the speculation now seems to be that something like the shattering of Pink Diamond and some of Pink Diamond's powers like going into one of the actual lions, and that's how it has all these kind of crazy powers that make it seem like super powerful, but Lion doesn't himself have a gem. So something like that. The problem would be the timeline thing, in that it seems to be implied that a lot of the battles at the time that we meet Pearl here have taken place, and I think if Pink Lion existed in the past, they probably would have mentioned him in the story, but they didn't. So like the shattering of Pink Diamond would have had to have taken place before this. So unless Lion exists but just wasn't in the story at this time, something else kind of crazy must have happened. So that's obviously a big mystery, and I think people were very spot on with really heavily beginning to question the whole idea of Lion, given that we've learned all this stuff about Rose. What else about the episode? We get to see a little bit of the pages of the book, some of the drawing illustrations that Buddy wrote, and we get to see, we basically get described some of the locations we've been to before as the gems have gone on missions. The control tower place, and then I think there's only one place we haven't been to before, the Palanquin, which a lot of people have figured out is basically the same sort of design as Blue Diamond's kind of, spider palanquin thing. That you kind of either question that, like, oh, maybe the color is different, but maybe it's one of the Diamond's kind of traveling palanquin things when one of the Diamonds came to Earth. People are saying it's the blue one because I think we've only ever seen the blue Diamond's palanquin. But if this is Pink Diamond's palanquin, that would make a whole lot of sense as like one of the only gem locations we haven't been to yet. And potentially the site where the big battle happened, the shattering of Pink Diamond, the creation of Lion or whatever, all of this big stuff happened. It would make sense that as like a pretty important location to deal with. But they don't really like give you anything super solid from the episode. It's just a really interesting exploration of the past in this episode, from a different perspective, in that it's not just one of the gems who was there at the time telling Steven what happened. No, it's just a human perspective that in the past some humans did explore these gem sites. So it was just interesting to find out that other people have been to the kindergarten, and this whole idea of the sandcastle, the inverted pyramid, and so on. I think one thing that slightly takes away from this episode is just that a lot of the times in like season 1 especially that we went to these locations, because these locations were used in relatively unimportant episodes, it's kind of a little bit difficult to remember the importance of a lot of these locations, because some of them are just like, oh, we visited here in Cheeseburger Backpack or something like that, some of the more kind of like really lighthearted episodes of the series. And now they're suddenly referencing a lot of that stuff. It's kind of a little bit weird that they didn't emphasize the more at the time. But it makes the show very interesting in that they're suddenly using all of this stuff from the past, that these gem locations suddenly have a big meaning, and there's a bunch that we haven't been to before. So I'm interested to see if they in any way try to have continuity with this episode going forward. Because I would think that they would basically, Stephen and Connie would come back to the other gems and be like, we just found this book. It seems to reference you guys in Rose. What about these few locations we actually haven't been to? Are they of any importance to us? And maybe some of the gems have forgotten that these locations exist, and something of note could have happened. So I'm thinking this book and what Stephen and Connie have learned from it will come back at some point as the series progresses. But overall, I've got to say, just to finish up the review now, I guess, really solid episode. I'd say it was good, not quite amazing, but really surprised me because I had kind of low expectations for the kind of premise of this episode. But yeah, it seems like next episode is going to be a Stephen and Connie focused episode again. Potentially the Stevonnie episode that we saw from the kind of trailers and stuff like that. So that should be fun. You know, like this episode ultimately, we didn't get a ton of Stephen and Connie actually interacting. But if we get more of that next week with Stevonnie, that seems pretty cool. I suppose the one final thing I need to mention here is from the first part of the episode, the whole idea of this is the first library Stephen's ever been to. You know, as far as Connie's aware, books are Stephen's favourite thing, which was an interesting kind of reveal. And then, of course, very much presenting this idea that Stephen, of course, doesn't go to school. Connie is doing study before going into the next grade in school, and the gem stuff kind of distracts her. There's just a nice little kind of fun moment, and you had the continuous joke of just Stephen not used to being in libraries, constantly being himself, so when he gets excited he like gets a little bit loud, and him getting given out to by the librarian. But that was a pretty fun little gag. But yeah, that's been the episode review for Buddy's book. I keep messing up the name of the episode even though it's so simple. But yeah, in the comments let me know what your thoughts were on this episode, your thoughts are on my review. And I'll just end by saying, if you want to follow me on Twitter or Tumblr, social media, links are in the description. Then if you want to help support my channel so I can make better videos, more videos, links to my Patreon page in addition to a PayPal donation link are in the description below as well. But that's been the video. Thanks for watching, and bye.